Hey everybody, J-Man105 here, back with another CCG related video, and I'm sticking with Magic the Gathering for this episode because I want to show you the different colors in Magic the Gathering as well as artifacts and mana. These are very important facets to the game. There are 5 colors in Magic the Gathering, and little known fact, there were rumors of a 6th color a long time back. We're talking near the end of the 90s, early 2000s, where purple was supposed to be introduced as a 6th color, but it was decided against by Wizards of the Coast because they felt it would add a lot of confusion. And while some players and collectors thought it was interesting, the rest of us were sitting there going, do we really need a 6th color? I mean, there are other cards in the games that duplicate that effect. So without any further ado, let me go over the colors as well as mana with you and artifacts. Since Magic the Gathering came out in 1993, the cards have been divided into 5 colors. You have green, which is your color that represents forests and life. You'll see a lot of worms and spiders, arachnids, animal life, plant life that takes up the green color. You have black, which is the color of death and really bad things. For example, there's a lot of cards dealing with skeletons, wall of bone, leeches, you have flow of maggots. It's a lot of nasty stuff. You have vampires, bats. You get the idea. It's death and suffering for the most part. We move on to red, which is the color of destruction and energy. So you see a lot of cards that deal with lightning, fire, volcanoes. There's things as stone rain, shatter, cards that do great destruction to artifacts or creatures or life points. And it's actually my favorite color in the game because of that. We move on to blue, which is the color of water. So anything you can imagine that deals with water, the lands are made up as islands. You'll see a lot of crustaceans, fish, people connected to water. You'll see snow and ice to a certain extent, depending on the set, especially if you go back to Ice Age. It's a varied color with many different cards, but as a lot of people will understand that are watching this video, it's based on counters and counter spells. I'll get into that on a later episode. Then you have the color white, which is all that is holy. You'll see a lot of shamans and priests and holy warriors and soldiers fighting for a righteous cause. You'll see protection against other colors. You'll see cards that enhance artifacts or protect against them. It's, I would say, the least used color in the game because a lot of the creatures are weaker than most of the other colors, but what it lacks in creatures it makes up for in enchantments and instants. The mana is very simple. In the older sets, it used to give you instructions on the card to add to your mana pool. In later sets, it was literally just the icon of the color, either green, black, red, blue, or white, and you'd put it down in your land pile or in your mana pile, and you use these lands to tap other cards to bring them out onto the battlefield between the planeswalkers. Now, that all being said, there are 2 additional card types in Magic the Gathering that are kind of colors. There are these cards that look gold around the rim, and this, I guess you could say, predated any talk of the purple color. The gold cards came out after a certain time in Magic the Gathering to bridge the gap between one or more colors in case you wanted to play something other than a monocolor deck. For example, I have a deck made up that is a combination black and red deck. So I would use cards like this that have the black and red mana icon so I could use it, using those manas to tap this card to bring it into the game. There are a lot of great cards with the gold border that can work with various colors, and the combinations are almost infinite because some of them work for red blue, red green, red white, etc., etc. So these are primarily used for building a multicolor deck. That being said, there's also what's called colorless land. It also looks sort of gold if you look at the text box. These can be used in place of other color lands in a multicolored deck. So if you're building, say, a black and red deck and you don't want a ton of black mana or red mana, you would put in this colorless mana. It does nearly the same thing, but some colorless mana has abilities that normal mana doesn't. So this one comes into play tapped. You can add to your mana pool, or you can sacrifice it to add a blue or a red to your mana pool. So it affects more than just one color. Then, of course, we have the artifact cards that have that brown stony border to them. Artifacts are exactly as they're called. They're artifacts, artifact creatures, and artifact enhancements that let you add on to your characters, your creatures per se, and other cards, give them extra ability or extra attack and defense. And artifacts have been one of my favorite parts of Magic the Gathering because when you're building a deck, you want to choose to include certain artifacts that help out your deck and the color that you're using. So they're very, very handy. All in all, 5 colors is more than enough, but I'm happy to have the gold cards as well as the artifact cards because they make for even more fun and interesting gameplay. Right on.